Welcome to the restoration of our case spreader. Join us to see the highs and the lows, the engineering brilliance from the find to the rebirth of this great old spreader. This is Cozy Cow Farm, where we're stuck in the 1940s and loving it. Alright David, we're going up our driveway. What do you think about if we go shopping on a special adventure for new farm equipment?
Yeah!
You want to go buy some farm equipment? Okay, look around, and the first farm equipment you see that isn't ours, let's get it. Oh look, there's some. Let's go get it. Do you know how much it costs?
I don't know.
No dollars at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are they giving it to us?
Yep, they do not want it, and the scrap man is going to come take it unless we want to come get it first. Do we want to come get it first? Yeah, we do. So as you might have seen in our other video, this Minneapolis Moline has been our main manure spreader. I love it. It's got so much character. It's a lot of fun to use. However, we have a problem where the apron drive is slipping a lot, and so every 2 minutes you have to hop down or have somebody chasing you and beating on it with a stick while you go. And we've got a lot more manure to deal with this year. So we did pick up another one. As you can see right back there, David's already started at work on it. And we're going to take you through restoring that. Since we are also restoring the Ford, we're going to try to restore this with a nice paint job. Orange on green from the 1940s to 50s manure spreader. Thinking it looks exactly like the new Idea 12As, but we got a couple tip-offs that seem a little bit wrong. First of all, the wheels are 20 inches, and apparently they should have been a 22 inch. This gear routing is all wrong for the beaters. It's supposed to be on the other side. And the big thing that's been bugging me is this huge gear case oil bath for the apron drive mechanism. The new Ideas are just this normal ratcheting mechanism like is just on the other one with a cheap little piece of tin over the front. This really unique curved front end support coming down to the hitch. As I'm just looking up random manufacturer names of manure spreaders, this curved design was used on a bunch of the case manure spreaders. It seems there aren't a lot of them around. You could call that rare, or you could just call it that they were unpopular, probably because they're pieces of crap, but we'll find out. As you can see, we're making some good progress. We've got the hitch off, all the handles on the front end off, most of the wood off, the rear beater. Now we're onto the wheels. This rim fits in around the edge, and then so you pry off the rim, and then the tire just slides off. We've got our donor tires, which popped off of their traditional wheels just fine using a normal tire dismount setup. But we cannot get this last tire off of this rim. It's amazing. Well, that tire is actually carrying that other tractor on just that little tiny corner of the bead. Here's the reason the tires were so hard to take off. The wheels have this terrible rust scale and have really bubbled up on the inside. We're going to lay Cor-Seal down, which is a nice rust converter that will chemically change that rust into a primer for us. But the problem is if there's a bubbly layer of rust, that's not going to do anything. It's going to keep rusting and come back up through. We're going to try to chip off some of that rust, and a ball peen hammer will work. In this case, I find that my fencing pliers are really doing wonders. So let's get going and just chipping away. Don't actually take my word that this is how it's done. Like I said, I'm used to more polished sheet metal. This really rusty thing is pretty new for me, but that's the plan so far. Chip it, grind it, flap wheel it, Cor-Seal it, prime paint. Parts are still coming off. We're getting there. I've got this lower beater is just a bear coming off. The gear almost off the end here, but I just can't quite get the last bit. It's really being a tough one. And getting some glimpses here and there of what the color used to be like. Quite hideous.
It used to be orange.
True green that was there. And as we're working down the wheels, you can still see some of this yellow that has this lovely greenish hue to it. It is sort of an equipment green yellow. We're going to go for a slightly more subtle color because I'm not willing to pay to import the exact green. Now we're trying to get ready for the lumber to put this together. It's It's going to take 1 by 8. I'm just not quite willing to drop $150 to $200 for the lumber, so we're looking at some of our options. We actually had quite a bit of this left over from the last manure spreader. This was $1.20 a board. They're 1 by 6s. When we got them, they were wet. They are very rough cut, and as you can see, these are the rejects. My cousin let me borrow his planer, so we're going to go ahead and get to work, see what we can do. Yeah, I know there's still going to be some imperfections, but at 1/10 the cost, it's worth it. And then I'm afraid for the 1 by 8s, I'll try to get those at a local mill as cheap as we can. So one piece of engineering on these manure spreaders is that the back of the spreader is ever so slightly wider than the front end, by about 2 inches in this case, which means that we have to strip this one down and not just straight, but with a bit of a taper toward the back. Finally done with flap wheel sanding the entire thing. Every angle of every piece has been sanded. Taking the rust off. Now it's time to use the Cora-Seal. Next up is beaters, and I'm not willing to put in the work to carefully sand or wire brush these. So we broke out the pressure washer, and if I can get it running right, we'll just wash these down, hopefully save some time and do a real quick prep for painting on those. Finally done with spray session number 1, and it was a disaster. One of the steepest painting learning curves I've had since I started painting anything. I'm used to shooting automotive urethanes, which are highly detailed things. These come with product information packets that tell you exactly what grit you're supposed to have sanded before you spray, exact windows of time between when you spray each coat. It's pretty complicated stuff, and it's hard to get it laid out without any orange peel or runs on the other end. But it's really rewarding too. This was a different animal. Picked up a can of the super cheap Van Sickle equipment enamel. There are hardly any instructions on the back, and it seemed kind of like latex paint. How hard can it be? Couple things here. I picked up the spray can version for the wheels and the straight enamel. Didn't actually care for the spray stuff. It came out super thin, coverage was terrible, and I'm going through 2 cans to get 2 wheels done. This stuff, on the other hand, is really good in that it covers well. It's really hard to mess it up because you just kind of slap it on there and it's such a thick sludge. It knits itself together, levels out, really hard to get a run. I liked it, except I had read enough online to hear people say, oh no, don't thin it because it'll decrease the durability and the color retention. Well, if you try to shoot something like that through a gun like this, it's a disaster. It just immediately clogged right up. I went with a paintbrush, and laying that on straight was like trying to paint with bogers. So back to the gun, and I ended up just entirely pulling out the needle valve and just shooting with air and this stuff dribbling through in a spray pattern about 1.5 inches wide. It took me 2.5 hours to paint 1 can of this on 2 beater assemblies, the paddles, the handles, and a couple other miscellaneous hardware things. Since then, I've read a little bit more from the manufacturer about how to thin it properly with the right thinners, and we're going to try that again going forward. One thing I love about old farm equipment is the really clever, simple solutions that they come up with for stuff. So, how do we get moving the wheels to advance the apron? We've got some little gears on the back there, and those are hooked into a shaft to this gearbox here, and that's linked in here. So as the axle turns, you can see this big cam lobe come up and push this rocker wheel. And as that happens, it translates into here, and it actually shoves the entire gearbox back. And those are on ratcheting gears inside, so it pushes the gears forward. And as we roll over to the next cam, it's pulls itself back in place and starts over again. This is to move the web chains as fast as they can possibly go, taking up the full throw of that cam gear. But with a simple adjustment of the handle, we can make it so it will only allow a partial reset, not extending all the way into the base of the cam gear, just going a little bump at a time over the top. I can tell there used to be some mechanism for raising this, or... Oh, that's it. That's the original. I didn't even recognize it before. Cool. I wonder if we'll be able to use this like it's supposed to. This little thing here was a fancy hitch with the front end of the manure spreader resting on the ground. You could hook the tractor up, and then as you pulled forward with the tractor, it would raise the hitch up off the ground. Either super clever, but since it didn't catch on, I'm thinking maybe not. Hi, I'm Simon.
And I'm Heather, and we call this Cozy Cow Farm.
We're not really farmers.
But I'm a farmer.
We just bought the farmhouse with the land,
Got some chickens.
then we added some cows. And we're still trying to figure out what we're doing. So subscribe to join us on our journey of trying to learn this.
Or comment and let us know what you'd like to see.